Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting on Monday, April 7th, 2025. We'll start the meeting at 6:01. Can I get a roll call, please, Beth?
Select Chair, Mr. Coy.
Here?
Select Vice Chair, Mr. DeRoche.
Here.
Selectman, Mr. Gifford.
Here.
Selectwoman, Ms. Costa.
Here.
Selectman, Mr. Shorman.
Here.
And now for the record, we have Town Manager, Mr. Colby, with
All right.
us.
Thank you. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the public comment until after we have the BD update. So I'm assuming the public comment is going to be in regards to item B anyways. With that, Mike and Cheryl, come on up. It's been a while. Like you were saying earlier, I'm not sure if we had you in last year or not, but we'd like to at least get an update. All right, I know we know who you are. If you just want to introduce yourself for Beth so she can have it for the minutes.
All right. Thank you all for having us. My name is Cheryl Sprague. I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency, and I am the project manager for the BD Superfund site.
My name is Stephanie Winnett. I'm the project manager for New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
Aaron Sheen, I'm the community involvement coordinator from the Environmental Protection Agency on the BD site.
And I'm Mike Skinner. I'm project coordinator for the BD site group.
Yep. Thank you for coming in on this beautiful night. At least it's not white.
That's right.
Wow.
We're going to get better. Thank you.
We just hope just for a quick update, you know, what's going on, what's been going on there for the last year or so.
Sure. All right. So I gave you all a little handout, just a little bit to follow. And I'm going to talk about three things tonight. I mean, we've been here, I just said, for years. We've talked a lot in the past about the thermal remediation that we did for the soils. So tonight, I'm just going to recap on the lower landfill excavation that we completed in 2023, talk a little bit about some of the soils investigations that happened last year, where we are with the design, and then kind of tell you how we're looking at groundwater.
All right, perfect.
All right?
Thank you.
All right, so just to recap, we're going to, there was two thermal operations where steam was injected into the soil so we could clean up below 10 feet and all the contaminants that would come out. One part of the site was too close to Kelly Brook, so this became an excavation. We called it the lower landfill in Kelly Brook sediment cleanup. And that excavation was completed in 2023. And it removed soils, debris from the landfill, and some sediments in Kelly Brook that were impacted. As you can see from here, we separated the waste to two different waste streams. Primarily, one is less than 50 part per million PCBs, and we've done a presentation on that. That means it goes to one kind of landfill, and if it's greater than 50, it goes to a RCRA hazardous waste site for cleanup, for disposal, sorry. At the same time, groundwater from this excavation was extracted, put through pretreatment at the site, and then into the groundwater treatment plant and discharged. So everything stays on site, gets treated for groundwater. After the excavation, all the backfill material was brought back in, and the site was restored with natural habitat, plantings, and set up for wildlife habitat. And we showed you two pictures here, one with the excavation, and similarly the restoration. So every year, they've come back now to make sure that the plants are growing and no erosion is happening in those areas.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow us on Facebook, but there are some great pictures of the restoration area. It's worth going back and looking at them. It was very successful.
Yeah, it looks good. I've seen.
And the wildlife
pictures.
is all coming back again, because I know there was
Oh, yeah.
quite a bit there.
We've got a waiting list for people that want to move in.
Yep, they got to wait a little bit. Sorry. So that brings us to soils. So one of the aspects of the remedy was addressing soils at the site. There's 26 acres, essentially what we consider parcel one, which is where the old materials were stored and the soils beneath that material is contaminated. There's been a lot of soil data collection over time. So some of the things they did in 2023 was just get the additional data. So what that means is that we're looking at 10 foot of cleanup, because that's the residential cleanup. And so what they're looking at is where is the contaminant at certain levels, and we're looking at 5 different contaminants essentially, so they can actually design something, so they can go before they get out to excavate it, what that excavation would look like. You know, sometimes you get surprises, but at least it gives you something so you can speed it up when you're actually there. So the record of decision, the remedy, established cleanup levels for PCBs, lead, arsenic, and petroleum products. However, we also have 1,4-dioxane and PFAS at the site. So we've done a supplemental end of 2024 to now to look at if there PFAS in soils at the site, and what does that mean? So one of the things we're reviewing right now that Mike submitted was a supplemental report looking at what the concentrations of PFAS are in soils at the site. And we're looking at it in the top 10 feet because that may pose additional risk in the residential cleanup. And we're looking at it below 10 feet to see if it leaches into groundwater, because that's one of the things we also would be concerned about. So right now we have an EPA risk assessor looking at that. And when we get that information back, we'll be able to use that. If it doesn't contribute any risk, then the remedy would, continue as is. If it contributes additional risk, we would look at what does that mean for the excavation, how much more, or where would it be, or anything else that would need to be modified. So there might be a comeback on that if we look at it. We're just not there yet to know, but we will be hopefully in a couple months. And so that would be the next phase. And once we have that information, we can go into remedial design. We'd come back, talk to you, that we should have a stakeholder meeting at that point and talk about what that looks like as we're going into that process.
Right.
So that's for soils. Groundwater. There's a couple different things going on with groundwater. There's an ongoing pump and treat system that's been operating since 2014. 13. I started in 2014. So, and that's collecting, 130 gallons per minute from 7 different wells. It treats it on site, injects it back into either a rapid infiltration basin or injection wells at the site. It's been a huge process and a huge savings because we can use that treated water for thermal, for operations at the site. So that's been a great asset to the cleanup. Also part of the ongoing work is monitoring. We monitor site groundwater once or twice a year. And additionally, we monitor residential wells, both former residential wells that have already been put on a water line over time, and those that are still using groundwater as their drinking water source. Some other things that are happening that are pretty much continual as part of our operations is there's residual, we call it NAPL, light non-aqueous phase liquids. Essentially, it's residual oils that are still there. So even though thousands of gallons were removed and it was clean, it still collects a little bit. So there's 3 belt skinners still on property. I believe they were started last week or so.
Yeah, right.
And so they just slowly, take out whatever's left that's sitting on the surface. There's also an alternative pumping that, the BD site group came to us. There's an area, if you recall, when we were doing the thermal, there was a sheet pile installation. We put the large sheet piles in. Well, up against it, some of the water is sitting there. And so they put in a few, extraneous pumps in those wells that are sitting in there because there's some higher concentrations of like arsenic and PFAS just sitting in that area for where the thermal operations may have helped move it from the soils into the groundwater. So we want to make sure we're making the groundwater treatment system as efficient as possible. So anytime you can collect higher concentrations to add to it, that's an effective way of reducing concentrations across the site.
If I could, one of the things about the thermal that was successful, we've pumped a lot of oil out of the ground. EPA took about 100,000 gallons out before we even started, and we've taken hundreds of thousands out. These little belt skimmers are exactly what they sound like. It's just a belt with a little paddle on it. And it goes down into the water and comes back up and brings some oil, and it's skimmed off, and we collect In about 5 years, we've only collected about 85 gallons of oil, and it's really an effective way of collecting it, but that's how successful the thermal was to get the oil out of the ground as a finally cleanup.
Right, and it's not everywhere across the thing, but there's about 3 places that if we can keep doing it, it is considered a principal threat. It is a mobile product, so we're trying to remove it from
All right.
what's left over. So that's pretty much just what's been happening with the mom system. We've been doing that for years, as we've come and talked about.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing about the mom system, and we're talking about PFAS, that's become a site driver. And you guys hear about it all the time, I'm sure. We discovered it in the water and we pump it through the system and it goes through the mom, but we added carbon treatment to it. So we're treating the PFAS that we can get.
Yeah.
We're treating that right now, and there's none going back into it, and we're putting the clean water back. So we started that pretty
2018.
aggressively. Yeah, right. So those kinds of things we're still addressing.
Right.
Just a question on if I guess you said in a couple months we'll know a little more about the PFAS at the under 10 feet. Can you just talk a little bit about what a remediation plan would entail? Like, you're going to do more analysis, more wells?
Yes.
Yes.
So for soils, so the groundwater is one piece. The soils, they've already done, borings down pretty deep, and we've got the concentration. So we know what's sitting down to 10 feet and where that is and some of the concentrations below it. So we're just trying to figure out, the state of New Hampshire's come up with some new soil standards, and we're looking to see if it's risk. We have to, in order to change a remedy or even to have a remedy, you have to have a basis for it, and the basis has to be risk. So we have to determine if there's enough of it that, to characterize it and to document that there's an unacceptable risk. And that is a requirement to then modify it. So if we already know in some areas that the PFAS goes down to 10 feet and we already have PCBs and lead, it doesn't change the remedy much because you're already going down to 10 feet.
Right.
But, in some areas, because PFAS, every contaminant moves a little differently. We had the oil covering 4 or 5 acres. PFAS seems to be, more on the southeastern side. So you're having to chase it a little bit differently. Maybe it was associated more with the tankers that were there than the oil that was put there. So we're just trying to follow it to see where is it. And if it's below 10 feet and it's in the water, I think we would look at what are the concentrations, what's the leachate criteria, how significant, and then marry it to the groundwater concentrations. And sometimes they're not able to be married. The high concentrations in soil might be here and the groundwater is here. So they'd take a look at that and look at the different ways we would look at it. The high concentrations for PFAS in groundwater, but not soils, is in the thermal remediation, and a lot of that probably would be, the heat would remove it from the soils and put it into the groundwater. So our highest concentrations are in the former thermal areas for PFAS and groundwater. And those are going to be captured. So, for the site, as Mike said, the original remedy had a lot of, containers on top of the soils. It leached. It's a very sand and gravel aquifer, 90 feet. So a lot of it stayed in that sand and gravel. The groundwater treatment system that was designed captured that shallow and intermediate sand and gravel, and it's doing great. The remedy required it not to let it migrate off-site. But right now, we also know that we have deep overburden contaminants and bedrock contaminants because we're seeing it off-site in some of the former residential wells. So one of the things we're looking at is how do you do investigations so you understand it, so you can modify the current MOM system, which is doing great, to capture everything we need to do, because this system is robust enough that it could capture it and treat it. Right now we've got a lot of wells that have, really reduced the concentration. So the capacity is there, but we just don't have the data yet for it. So, and a lot of this stems from the fact that in April 2024, EPA came out and established federal, we call them maximum contaminant levels, essentially their drinking water standards. And they were pretty low. They're the lowest we've been looking at for years because we've watched it slowly come down in concentrations. As Mike said, we've been capturing it since 2018, well before then, and treating it effectively. So the site gets a gold star, in New England, because very few are doing that at all. And as we said, the current design captures the shallow, so it's not that it's not working, but we just want to make sure we capture the intermediate and the bedrock, and those might be crossing those property lines at different locations. So what that would mean is maybe moving the wells to make sure we capture it, and to know where to capture it. They're doing these investigations. So the first part we're studying is the overburden. So starting April 21st is going to be some high resolution characterization sampling. So basically these are small borings that are put in, and what happens is as they go down through through the subsurface, they can collect groundwater samples so we can understand if groundwater concentrations are highest at 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet, because that's what you want to monitor, the highest concentrations. So we're looking for that across the site. So there's a grid set out, and they'll come out and put them in. I think it's about 4 weeks to cross the site. So that'll give us an understanding of how it's moving from the source area through the source areas towards the property boundaries. The remainder of the bedrock investigations, are going to take a little bit longer. There wasn't a lot of bedrock information at the site at the time when it was cleaned up. So we're kind of strolling real far back into like RI mode. So we're going to have to look at top of bedrock surveys, which means we might do geophysical surveys, resistivity surveys to make sure we can map the top of the bedrock so we can understand where it's going. Because again, once it's in the bedrock, groundwater moves through fractures. So now we have to look for all the fractures that may be coming through the site and how it's moving, off the site. They'll do fracture analysis, and then you take that information and you put in additional wells. So once we have that information, then you'll be able to come back and look at how would you optimize the current system to make sure you're meeting that remedy goal of capturing everything at the site.
How far down is the bedrock?
So I think the deepest overburden is 90 feet.
90 feet.
Right. And it may not reach it, like every contaminant's different. PFAS likes to be at the surface water, so it may not go down there, but 1,4-dioxane, that wants to go. And that's going to go deeper, so you gotta assess where it's going and where the potential is, and then follow that migration pattern. How is it moving? How is it leaving? Can anybody else be impacted? I think there's 22 people you've put on the water line.
Yeah, no, that's 25, because we put 3 other homes on 2 years ago when we found PFAS in there. And so I worked with Penachuk, and we were able to put them on. So I'm glad you brought that up. Essentially, the hazard to them is gone.
Yeah.
Now we just can we block it, stop it, or what we're going to do.
Sure.
But the water line's been very effective. And it's just a good way to go in any community that's this populated.
Right. I mean, it takes a long time to understand how groundwater is migrating, getting the exact information, and a long time to clean it up. So, their ability to come out and voluntarily keep continuing to put people on has been an absolute asset to allow us to do the studies.
One of the things about the PFAS, and I think it's everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, we don't know where I hate to say this, but the only known source for the site came from the fire company spraying AFFF. Okay, so, and that's the hot spot on the site, really. But it's still everywhere else. I've talked to Penachuk. They've drilled a well for a source, and they still find PFAS in them. So it's going to be a challenge for all of us for quite a while.
Right. It's an industrial contaminant. It was used, it can be used in plating industries and, a lot of fabric and shoes because it helps. It's got 2 different ends to it. One repels water, one repels oil. So it's very useful for anything to do with fabric, plating in so many industries. So when we look back, it's not a main contaminant that they may have used or a main chemical, but it might have had a role in it. And there's 5,000 different responsible parties, I think. So there's many different industries that kind of, so, more the issue, I think, is we weren't there when everything happened at the site. This is 1926, and on. So sometimes it's hard to know, like, did a drum spill here or did it leak from this container or whatever. So we're trying to put those pieces together by the data and what does the story tell us and what does it mean? Is it sinking here? Do we need to stop it? Is it migrating? Currently it's the concentrations are in the ppb level in the former thermal source area. And they're about 400 part per trillion coming, to the property line, but the drinking water standard is 4 part per trillion. So we're trying to make sure that we understand where it's going, and get enough information so we can study it and see if there's any optimization that can happen. I mean, we're on the good side of it because the operation system is still going, and that's a huge benefit.
Sure.
Absolute benefit. So the bedrock investigations, like I said, we're going to focus, our primary thing is to get these soils kind of resolved and moving forward so we can have that discussion now with the PFAS issue, in its process. Groundwater is going to take a few steps They'll look at, the bedrock, they'll look at the overburden, they'll look at the bedrock. The other thing they'll look at is surface water. We've got Kelly Brook that lines two sides of the site. So if we're seeing a lot in the overburden, we want to make sure we understand, is it going underneath Kelly Brook? Is it discharging to Kelly Brook? What is the interaction between groundwater and surface water in some of the areas that we're not capturing it, like the upper side? Because we don't want to drain everything from Kelly Brook. So we want to make sure we understand, is there any migration pattern there? So I think, for the soils, we've had discussions, future use discussions, different aspect discussions over the last couple of years. So, I look forward to coming back when we have that information, and then we can kind of say, what's on the table? What do we have?
Now, for this year, is there many trucks going to be going in and out? Because I know we've had that in the past. So I'm just, so the residents around there, try to give them a heads up.
Yeah, we like to give them a heads up.
Right.
You're exactly right. We want to send out we're going to post it on Facebook, but we also give letters to the neighbors.
Yes.
There will be some trucks and noise when we start doing the HRSC in mid-April, which is going to last a month. But other than that, it's the typical investigations with some of the smaller equipment that we go in and do. But we always try to make sure everybody knows what's going on, and I try and send something to Greg. So when he gets a phone call, he at least knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Not the
Right.
surprise.
And I think there's some maintenance. I think the mom system's going to go down for
Yes.
about a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. There's a sump that needs to be fixed, and you got to shut it off to do it.
Yeah.
There's general operation and maintenance of the treatment plant.
Very good. I mean, it's been going on a long time.
And it will be going on a long
I
time.
know.
Yeah.
One of your favorite questions, and I understand completely, is when will it be done? It's sort of like the Sistine Chapel. The PFAS has changed the system and what we're going to be doing and thinking for a long time. It's going to be very hard to make sure it's under control. I mean, it's in the courts. Everybody's suing for PFAS. Are we making the right decisions? So,
Yeah, no, that's a big thing out there now. You hear about that everywhere now.
yeah. So we try and make it not stop us and try and get things done.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
fortunate in our site, if you can believe that we don't have an unbelievable amount of PFAS that we're dealing with.
Could that be you've taken some of it out of there before you found it? Too, with everything?
It could have been in the oil, with there's hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
gallons of
But
oil
I'm
that
saying
were taken.
you've
It's
already
definitely-
removed a lot.
And, but with the capture of the groundwater with the mom system, I mean, that's been huge. So many other sites, you can monitor it for years, but you don't have that system in place to stop it. So this is going to keep it more contained, if you would, than some of the other sites. So, and again, VOCs clean up pretty quickly, especially in a sandy aquifer.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of water moving in, you're flushing it out. They're not high concentrations to begin with. We don't have enough long-term treatment of PFAS to know how that's going to go. And we're trying to make sure we look at it as it is at a site, and every site's going to be different. The site doesn't have a lot of wetlands to kind of hold it, not a lot of organic matter. It's got sandy soil, so that's a great way to move the groundwater in and get it treated.
Very good. Questions?
So the mom system is going to be down for 2 weeks.
I think it's about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's about 2 weeks. It's basically building maintenance. Some of the sumps underneath, got to make sure we get those fixed and cleaned. It's nothing unusual, typical O&M after 11, 12 years now.
Yeah.
So,
With it being down, obviously water isn't going to get,
I'm sorry?
water won't get filtered out with those chemicals. So
The pumps get turned off or whatever, and so nothing is going on. So you're not losing the draw that we had and the way the treatment's going on, but you can't treat if the system is down.
Right.
We try to control flows, make sure that everything doesn't get out of control when it's down.
Right, and groundwater flow itself is not rapid.
It's very slow.
Yeah, it's a very slow moving thing. So when they have these extraction wells and they're sitting in the sandy soil, they're pulling in that vacuum, they're pulling it in so it captures it as it flows by. So it'll slowly back up, but then it's not going to go very far. It doesn't have the speed, especially in an aquifer. Bedrock might move a little different.
Yeah.
We share a site, and in bedrock you can go from no water in a fracture to move 5 feet away, and you've got 50 gallons a minute coming at you. So I mean, bedrock is a totally different story when it comes to it. So that's why that investigation has to take
All right.
more steps to doing it.
Cool. Question, John?
Just after you've done the summer coring process, can we get an update after that?
Sure.
Because then we'll have a much better idea of the PFAS that's.
We could probably do something in the fall would be.
Yep.
Because we're going to do the coring that Cheryl talked about and described for you. Then we'll probably be doing some follow-up work with probably less aggressive equipment because we'll have a little bit more idea what we're looking for. And that will be done either late winter or late summer and then early into the fall. So probably towards the end of the fall, we might have some information.
All right.
Great.
Right. And and if PFAS comes back, and presents, if it doesn't present as a risk, then we'd move it forward. If it does present as a risk, then EPA would have to try to incorporate into, the remedy, and we'd have to do a lot of public discussion on that.
Okay.
So that we wouldn't move forward with that without coming back and talking
All
again.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing I'll mention is that I put on with the handout, the monthly report. And that's the report that Mike shares.
Yeah.
It goes to us in the town, so you guys probably seen that. But as long as that system is still working, I'm good with that. But if there's anything else you think you might need more than that, just let me know.
Okay.
Talking.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Now, I'm sure you go through the monthly report in full detail.
I look forward to it.
So you can get a good night's sleep.
Exactly. Liz, Tyler?
No, is there some way us newbies could possibly get a site walk at some point?
Absolutely.
There are also, we've come to do other presentations before, and they're probably really helpful. There's slideshows with those, or the video recordings themselves. If you really want a good night's sleep, you can watch those.
Well, I think one of them's on your website.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the I think that was the one we did a really good explanation of why there's a risk and why we're here. So that was great that you put it up on the website. But yeah, we can do.
Yeah.
All right, that would be great.
When the weather starts to break, a little warmer like in May or
Oh,
whatever.
not like this?
Not like this. No.
And before everything grows too high or there's,
Yeah, not
know, I mean-
95 degrees.
Yeah.
part of the other stuff, we're giving you a kind of an overview. There's probably another, 40 different plans that we're working on. We work on institutional controls, making sure we know signage and fencing and, protections that are more administrative in that sense. There's an invasive species, after the thermal was done, it killed off kind of, the regular stuff. And, you get this flush of invasive species plants. So they have a whole team out there trying to, keep them corralled and hopefully dying off, faster than they're growing. So they take care of the bittersweets. And I think that's, quarterly inspections.
Yeah.
They go out and they perform work on that. So, there's gauging to see how much oil there is a couple times, and they're coming back with a report in case there's something bigger that needs to be done. So there's many different layers. We were just trying to highlight, what I think are going to be the bigger ticket items, which is going to be, soils, because if we move forward, that's when we're looking at, what is the design going to be? But more importantly, what is the future use going to be? And I know we've had discussions in the past, but that is an absolute, thing that we're going to have to do as stakeholders to say, how do you marry the two?
All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you guys have scheduled sometime in the spring, just give me a call and we can arrange a tour.
All right, I'll coordinate with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
I had a question for you. Your water line item for today, is that for Old County Road? Or is that for a different?
Is it number 8?
I think it was, I thought I saw in Genesis, town manager, potable water.
Potable water?
Oh,
Oh, that's just a.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I figured. I didn't put something new. I was like,
Yeah,
maybe it's
no.
just-
So I think you're aware, so DS is helping the PFAS fund for Old County Road, the water line project?
Yes.
Okay, and we put those additional potential locations on as alternative bid items? Okay, so I was just curious if that was an update today for me. Okay.
Not today.
I think we're just going out to bid, or we've gotten some bids back on doing the work that's coming up.
Yeah, the bids came in on the 31st.
Fantastic, okay.
So those 3 houses.
Okay, we'll check back in, that's great. We're hoping for some collaboration to make that as easy as possible, so.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, because you're coming up Old County Road. There's a water line on Kelly Road, and some of those houses came back with PFAS in their wells.
Yeah.
So
We're trying to facilitate that so it's most efficient use of all money involved.
with the rebate. And then we've asked for a couple other houses along the Kelly Road, Old County Road, that used to be part of our sampling to also get sampled. So we are trying to kind of wrap the site and figure out what's going on. Some of our monitoring wells, came up with PFAS in the shallow, just beyond Kelly Brook. So we were trying to, that'll be part of our investigation. Why is that there? Is it from the site? Is it from someplace else? But our first priority happens to be any houses that are right there.
Sure.
Especially the ones that are, the shallowest wells.
Right.
Right. I mean, I think, there's only one other shallow well.
Yeah.
We do have one household within our area of down gradient that has not agreed to go onto the water line. So we do keep sampling as well and informing him of his results.
Guess it's his choice.
Yes, absolutely. We just provide the information.
Yep.
Just
so
to let you
can
know,
go.
we do have one
Yeah.
that, most of them have moved on, but we are
Yeah.
watching all the way around.
Okay, good.
And we
Yeah.
have,
And we'll have probably more of an update on that next time as well.
Nice,
For
good.
the additional, but for the water line, we'll keep in contact with that to see how that goes along.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think right now the water line's just going just past Wilder Drive.
Yep.
A little bit, and the corner of Kelly Road's not that
It's
far
not,
off.
no, it's pretty
No,
close.
and
Yeah.
yeah, we've had some discussions. So, but we're more concerned with the potentially connecting
Yeah.
those that are along already and making use of that. So.
Yeah.
right.
Right, good.
We do get calls every now and then from people that are farther away that,
Oh, I'm sure.
I think they wish they're a little closer, but,
Yeah.
we can just answer what we can answer.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Thank you very much. That was great.
Thank
It's
you.
good seeing everyone again.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. Our, the Woodard and Kern people are going to be helping on your spring cleanup day again this year.
Oh, good.
They like to go all the way around the site.
Yeah. Yeah, they do that every year.
They always get some trash.
Oh, they do. They've had tires. They've had all kinds of stuff. I
Yeah.
know they've picked up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.
All right, now we'll backtrack. We'll do public comment. Anybody has any public comment?
Hi,
Good evening.
Jess Pelletier, 24 North Ave. I guess I'm just here for the homesteading foods conversation.
Yep.
And I guess I'm just hoping for clarification tonight because, we're like a month in and I think a lot of people just thought that the citizens petition kind of put this through. And then we've been told it hasn't been put through, but, I feel like we're kind of just in this flux kind of.
I think you'll hear something tonight.
What's that?
You'll hear something tonight. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and I looked at the materials, so it seems like that's going to kind of take care of that. But yeah, so I think just a further explanation for residents and everything, and so everybody knows what's going on. Because yeah, so that's about it.
All right.
All right, thank
Good,
you.
Thank you.
Take one and pass it down. I apologize for the stapling job. My littlest kid did that, and you get the classic autistic kid staple, which is precise and in the same exact location on every page, but in the wrong corner. So
If
It's-
you just give your name and address.
yes, Joanna Kimball, 18 Forest Street. I'm here to, more than anything else, I don't need to read off what I'm handing out to you. So more than anything else, I would love to answer any questions that anybody has. I've been canning for my entire life, since I won the little state regionals for my cranberry jelly when I was 8 years old. So this has been a big part of my life ever since. And it's kind of funny. Yesterday, we were up at the Maine Organic Farmers and Growers Association fair in Unity, Maine. And there was a huge swap, a seed swap and so on between all the farmers up there. and we brought 3 baskets of our canned goods and put them out to swap with other people who were coming to get things, various plants and whatever. They were gone in an instant, and it was completely legal. I didn't have to ask permission for that. Unity has food sovereignty laws that are extremely powerful, and as long as I listed ingredients and processing, it was completely fine to give it away, even though I was not in the state, not from the state, and so on. And so it does strike me as kind of funny that I have to come back home and ask for permission to do the same thing, even though I'm literally doing it in my kitchen a mile down the street. So that to me is an example of really that we're in a funny place where this is an incredibly safe process. And I mean so safe that up in Maine, there was a mom with a little baby on her chest, and she came and she got my applesauce, and I said, yay. You know, I never would have a concern in the world that a 6-month-old would ever get sick from the applesauce that I made, because I know I've handled every single apple. I know exactly how clean it is. We have stainless countertops, and I know how canning works, that it is so, so, so safe. So mostly, aside from the little handout that I gave you, I would love to answer any questions if anybody has them.
I know I'm pretty good. We got the health inspector going to be talking about it in about 2 seconds.
Okay, wonderful. And if they have any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well, because this is something that really is just, it's about as safe a process as anything you would ever do with other people and eating. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, can't forget you, Dan.
No, we should hear from the guy who wrote it. And I will be brief. And just to give some context, you know, I created the citizens petition to simply allow homestead food. You know, and I put it in writing. It wasn't my intention to create regulations. It's not my job. And I didn't think it was the job of the petition. That's you folks' job. That being said, I think when I just saw the kind of draft, there are some elements in that probably need some tweaking, in my opinion. And I don't know whether you want me to go through those or you want me to put it in writing, you know?
What do you think? I mean, I don't know how big the tweaks are you're talking, because it's like anything else, things get tweaked along the way, right?
Well, I'll just give you an example. Is in the definitions, you know, that was in the citizens petition, and it referenced the RSA for a reason. I wanted the definitions tethered to the RSA for like an exempt homestead food operation, because then when the RSA is updated, the definition is in effect becomes updated.
Right.
What's happening now is you have to go back every year or however frequently these get updated. And I will tell you, there's 5 separate bills sitting right now that have been approved by the House that affect homestead food. You know, whether those all make it through the Senate, who knows? But they're all,
We'll have to deal with that as they come.
they're all sitting, and I pay attention to them because they all come out of the Agricultural Committee. So I mean, there are elements. I mean, I think what was done was a great, you know, food attempt, and I think it mostly gets there. But there are things in here that aren't necessarily defined, that quite frankly should be. And my biggest concern is the prohibition against a licensed homestead food operation. I don't quite get that. Is the whole idea between homestead food is you're okay with exempt, but not with licensed. And the only difference between the two is in a licensed, you have a broader distribution of your potential customers. And while homestead food by its very nature, non-TCS food, has an extremely low risk of food contamination, it's not zero. And the broader you expand who you can sell that food to, the more risk you have. So,
And we will be doing a non-exempt one as well. It's just
okay,
we wanted to get this done first.
okay, I'm just reading this, I didn't have,
But that's what it is, and then we're
Good
gonna, then we're
context.
gonna tackle the other one, but we felt it was important to get this one addressed.
Okay.
This one first and handle them separate.
so then the only thing I think I would really add is that in PH 143A, I think it's like page 3 of what I printed out anyways, page 4. The only thing I would add is in the various definitions of homestead food operations, retail food stores are always included, except in this particular reference. So if you read all through the RSAs, exempt, homestead food operations that would be exempt can sell their food at the state level in retail food stores. And, my last comment is, I did this, I believe in this, because I believe that we should be providing ourselves maximum opportunity in how to use our homes. Okay? Costs us more every year just to occupy them. And anywhere we can increase our opportunity to use the property we own, I think we should be looking as a town to do that. So, to echo maybe a little bit with what Joanna said is when last year the state ended up putting it in a committee, but it's still going to come back, looked at really overwhelmingly changing homestead food. They were going to call it artisanal food or artisan food. And the Department of Health, the New Hampshire Department of Health came in and went through some statistics. So there's 145 licensed homestead food operations in the entire state of New Hampshire. When you add farm stores, when you add retail stores with one prep area, retail stores with no prep area, that number comes up to 235. In all of those, the state of New Hampshire estimated that if all of them got cast out of the licensure and inspection, it would cost the state $10,000 in additional investigation of potential foodborne illness. That's on a budget of over $6 billion. So the state's not looking at this as a huge risk. If they were, that number would be substantially higher. So,
All right, thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, and with that, come on up, Patrick, to talk about the exempt homestead food services. How's it
Evening,
going?
everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me up tonight. Unfortunately, I was unable to be at the last meeting, which I think would have cleared a lot of the questions up early. But we'll get it done tonight. So in the packet that was listed tonight were the proposed changes to allow exempt homestead food operations in the town of Plastow. I think to answer some questions and clarify some points that people already had, like you mentioned, we absolutely are going to move on to the non-exempt homestead food licensure after this, but this is the that we want to make sure we do absolutely correctly because it will be considered a food establishment. So we want to make sure that that licensing is done appropriately and we have everything we need. I'm not a lawyer and not a code expert. So we want to make sure we have those appropriate people take a look at this. The information here today is from the RSAs. So definitions come from New Hampshire 140, excuse me. Yeah, it would be two locations. It would be their HEP 2300, which is sanitary production and distribution of food, and their RSA 143A, which is sanitary production and distribution of food, respectively. So all the definitions here tonight came from those current documents. So this is a mirror image of the state RSAs. Why we do that and why we have to do that is because we're self-inspecting. We have an MOU with the state of New Hampshire that says we're going to adopt appropriate regulations related to the licensure of food establishments and sanitation. So after this, if the board approves these changes, this would then go to the state as is required in our MOU. So all of the changes here, I think, really spell out that we're allowing exempt homestead food operations right now. And I think that, to be clear, there's a promise to, in an expeditious fashion, look at the non-exempt food licensure as well and move on that. That would require the same processes here. So the process for these changes can be found in 147 Title X of the Public Health RSAs, Section 1. So that is these which allow for local regulations may be made by health officers will take effect when approved by the selectmen, recorded by the town clerk, and published in some newspaper printed in the town, or when copies thereof have been posted in 2 or more public places in the town. So that's the process. We bring it here, we have the meeting, the board votes on it, and then that will be effective once the town clerk records it. We post it in a public place.
So we can post that pretty much.
Post it in the library, post it in the town hall. Yeah.
Library, annex, town hall, and online.
Yeah, and then boom.
Yep. Exactly.
That's it. That's simple.
To go back for just a point of clarification, I do want to ask if it's all right of Mr. Kane on the definition of retail food. Are you just looking to make sure that the definition of a retail food store is located in the regulations?
Or it relates to multiple places in the RSA that relates to exempt.
Yep.
They use retail food. In one place in that whole regulation, they don't. They don't refer to a retail food store, not necessarily definition.
Okay.
But in that bucket of where exempt homestead food can sell their food.
Okay. All right. I do want to say in 143, there it is referenced a couple times, but if you'll show me where you think it's missing, I'll happily take a look at it. And then beyond that, this is exactly what the state says. We can't be any less strict than the state is with their rules. We can obviously be more prohibitive, but this is exactly the same level on par with the state as of right now. So voting this in would effectively, as of the posting of this in a public place and recording by the town clerk, so tomorrow, allow for these changes to be made and allow for the exempt homestead food operations.
All right, good. Go ahead, Liz,
Can I make the motion?
if you'd like.
I would like to make the motion to approve the homestead food operations as presented by the health officer tonight,
I'll second that.
Tyler,
with the caveat that can we have the next section at our next meeting so that it's all set and ready to go?
I would like a lawyer, code professional, someone to take a look at that and make sure that it's appropriate.
Okay.
As we can certainly reach out to those folks tomorrow, and
All
if
right.
they can get back to us in time, yes.
Okay. And then you'll work with Mr. Kane to clear up the language he was concerned with.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
So
you.
I don't want to promise that, but I will
Right.
certainly make every effort, and I'll make sure the town manager is CC'd on those messages.
All right, thank
But
you.
at least a good thing we're addressing this piece
Let's
tonight.
get it done.
And this is it, as it should be, right? It would have been nice if we had it the last one, but we didn't. Things didn't work out, but at least we're doing it tonight.
Yep.
You know, I think, I speak for myself saying nothing but a public servant. The public was very clear in the citizens petition that this was something that they wanted. So I think it's appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and, you know, the voters rule at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
500. And we'll get that posted tomorrow.
Other questions?
I think we're good. Thanks.
I guess when we might see the non-exempt, couple meetings, like a month.
I think that should be reasonable.
That works.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up and getting it done quickly.
Happy baking and
Appreciate it.
canning, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now, next up on the agenda, going to consider an RFP for the solar array on the landfill. Dee and Tim. Good evening.
Evening. Chairs are low.
You got the one that speaks. Not the good one, but.
All part of the plan.
For the record, I'm Dee Voss. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator for the town, and this is Tim Moore. He's the Chairman of the Energy Committee. And we wanted to come in to give the board an opportunity to look at a draft that we prepared for a request for a proposal to put a solar array on the landfill. We've highlighted some dates in here for posting as well as returns, and the return dates are based on that posting date of April 22nd. We wanted to give you an opportunity at this meeting to ask any questions, so we could hopefully have a final draft approved at the next meeting. I didn't print the enclosures that we're going to attach to this to give any proposers further information about our landfill groundwater agreement out there, but I did email them to you, so if you had, I don't have answers to questions about those, but if you had questions, if you want to email it to us, be happy to get those answered for you. But that's just to give them as much information as possible about our permitting out there from DES, so that they understand they're going to put a solar array out there. These are going to be the requirements they have to adhere to as well.
Perfect. Questions, anyone?
No, but I will say that this has been a long time coming, and I want to thank Dee and Tim Moore for kind of driving the bus on this through the Energy Committee. This is going to be a good thing for the town, and I just want to thank you for putting all this work into it.
I mean, it's good use for the landfill. What else are you gonna, is it
It's,
gonna be
yeah,
used for?
it's great.
It's a huge opportunity for the
Yeah,
town going
sure
forward.
is.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's not making us any money just sitting there
Sitting
like it
there.
is, so.
Yeah.
But we do need to protect the landfill cap. We just spent a lot of money getting it all fixed up and redone, and we want to make sure that no damage happens with that.
Yeah. So thank you for putting the time and energy into this.
Yeah, no, it'll be good to get the project underway. Absolutely.
Well, that's why we took the liberty of doing the draft, so that we wanted to keep the train moving forward on it and not have it fall off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, and that happens far too often, right?
I think when revision was here last, they estimated it's a 5 to 6 year project.
Yeah.
Before they go
Assuming you don't
online.
have any impediments along the way, and just a lot of steps and hoops to jump through to plan and get the power turned on.
And it's nice that it's not going to be a liability to us whatsoever. It's just going to be a cash flow situation. That is.
Yeah, the intent is just to have it be a moneymaker.
On a lot of the citizens in town, and I think that the way that it was approached is probably in the best format for the town and everybody involved.
And we will make sure that anybody who has expressed interest along the way, who has come to this board with presentations, does get a copy of the RFP to make sure that, it's wide open to as many vendors as possible to, we intentionally put a on-site mandatory pre-bidding,
Tour.
pre-proposal. That kind of puts them in the same place at the same time, so they see who their competition is, and they sharpen their pencils a little bit more, because they know who they're up against. So, plus they can get a really good look at the land out there.
That's probably the big thing, to look at the land. Other than that, do I have to get out there, keep people away from each other? You go to that corner. You go to that.
They're usually pretty civil, but you can watch them eyeing each other up and down too. Oh, so they're here. Okay.
Yeah, I've been to a few of those. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see the first one who arrives, he's looking at the parking lot, who's going up next.
But we wanted to make sure that we could answer any questions and then finalize the draft and hopefully get your approval to post it at the next meeting.
Well, to me, it looks pretty straightforward.
I think there's ample time for people to respond. I think it's laid out well.
Well, we wanted to make sure that because you can't assume that everybody sees it the first day you post it.
Exactly.
So if you give them enough time for word to get out, then they can pull the proposal and hopefully we get more bidders. And the more you get, the more proposals you get, the better your competition is. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so when you hear everyone else, it'd be nice if there was a big crew out there.
Yep.
Agreed. Any other comments or anything?
No, I just think I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
Can you double check on page 3, 12B? Federal wage rate that's not Davis bacon. I'm not familiar with Fairground bacon, but I am with Davis bacon.
I always thought it was Davis Bacon too, but I was going with what somebody.
Just double check. I mean,
I will.
I like fairground bacon.
delicious, right?
Yeah,
That's turkey leg.
Other than that, I think I'm good. Everyone else good?
I'm great about this.
Onward and upward.
Yep.
All right, so I'll make that double check on that, and I'll have a final draft with a draft motion prepared for the board for their next meeting.
Perfect.
And if you have any questions in the meantime, you know where to find me. You have anything else, Tim?
No, I'm all set. Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of the evening. And next up, there were some openings on the ZBA, so review, we had 3 applications came in. I think everyone should have a copy. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through them. We had one came in from Ryan LeBrecq, one from Jason Orsini, and one from Daryl Britton. I know we had with the last election, we had one person step down and then some other ones had to step down, unfortunately.
Frees me up on a Thursday night.
That gives you a little extra time.
So do you have any questions about this, or you want to?
I mean, I
see it as a positive, we move it forward.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to write because usually it's the last Thursday of the month. Is that when they meet?
Typically, but
I have 4 applications for April 26th. The deadline isn't until April 24th. The deadline's not until Wednesday.
Right, and this is one of those boards. It's important to have the 5 members there, right?
absolutely,
And
because
they can go forward, but they need 3 to be accepted. So if
Right.
it's 4 and it goes 2-2,
whether
then
somebody's
it's
sick or a conflict of interest or whatever it is that draws it apart. So I'm going to move to appoint the following individuals to the zoning board for the noted positions and terms. Ryan LeBrecq as a regular member, term expiring March 2027 to fill the remainder of the term of the resignated Peter Belo. Jason Orsini, a regular member, term expiring March 2027, filling the remainder of the term of the disqualified myself, Jonathan Gifford, from the passing of CP 25-2 at the town meeting. And then finally, Daryl Britton as an alternate member, term expiring March 26th,
to fill the remainder of the term of the disqualification of Patrick Kiley, again, passing from CP 25-2 at the town meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, and the only thing I'll just add to it, that would bring up to 5 members and 1 alternate.
Right. And they're more than happy to get more alternates. So if you're interested, the positions are still available for alternates.
Just one question I had was, typically when we put someone or appoint someone to a term, don't they fill out the remainder of the year, not the remainder of the term? And then they have to run for reelection?
They'd have to run for election, correct? This would just be
This
till
is
next
the
year.
new thing, that they have to run for elections instead of are appointed.
Right, but I think what Jay's saying is. a lot
Shouldn't
of
this
time-
all be ending in March 2026?
March 26th. They'll be appointed until 26, and then they'll need to be reelected, or do we appoint for the end of the term?
Our terms are legally till March.
I believe it's really a formality of filling it to the end of the previous
So
term.
it's on a,
But I believe it will be pretty all up for election in March of 26.
oh, so they're
I don't think
all
it's
up
all
for-
positions. I think as each position it comes out, like say if someone's term didn't end until, just to throw a date out there, 2028, then that's when that one would come up for
That's what I
reelection.
thought it was.
Is it?
That-
Yeah.
That's how I read these.
We'll
Because
get,
that way there you stay staggered.
Mhm.
So as each one of these positions come up, then that's when they would go on the ballot. That's how I read it.
Because I believe Mr. Belos expired in March 2025. So
And then he got reappointed.
then he would have been reappointed in March of 2025, so that term would be until 2028. So Mr. LeBrecq would do the term and then do 2 more.
Well, it must be different because Ryan would be filling Peter's spot, which would give him till March of 27.
Mhm. Yeah.
He probably did it.
what's that?
Yeah.
Right.
all right, just making sure. I was
Good
just,
question.
I may have misunderstood it as well. I thought that it would be going on the ballot with staggered like a 1 year, 2 year, and a 3 year
Right.
term.
And that's what I thought.
All
it
of
was.
them, in March, but I'm
happy to vote on this now, and then if we need to change it,
Get legal clarification.
just get
Yeah,
clarification.
so just so everyone knows, we've been talking, so the 2 full members that would be going in would be Ryan LeBrecq, Jason Orsini, and the alternate would be Darrell Britton.
Filling out their respective terms.
Correct.
Okay. Need a vote.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So 500. And next up is compost.
Want me to take this?
You got it.
All right. At the last meeting, we had black earth in, and I didn't want to let it sit anymore, so I wanted to see if the board had time to think about it and see what they wanted to do, if we wanted to look at implementing some type of small composting program to start to get people involved with that. One of the options would be to put a couple barrels up at a designated location in town where people can drop off their compost. And I think that's a easy way to start, rather than having a full-blown curbside pickup application of this. But one of the other options that was discussed was, they had starter kits, maybe to get more people involved. We get some of the starter kits and we hand them out to the first, 25, 50, 75 people that are interested in doing it, to try to get people interested in doing this. Because in the past, we've done stuff like this where we've given away rain barrels or given out water tests for the first 50 or 60 people because of, for whatever reason. So I wanted to get an idea on how the board felt about maybe moving ahead with some type of, at least starting a composting effort in town.
I think it's a good idea. Maybe we start with trying to get a sign up for the first 25, 30, whatever that minimum was that he said we needed, so that they could do the personal one. But if we offered a common space to kind of introduce it and then had that sign up.
Right. I think the common space is probably the way to start.
Yep.
That way there you can see what the interest is, and it's in one spot. And then as folks start to do it, I know myself, I'd much rather have a container put at curbside than to put it in my car and, and lug it up the street. That's me.
Maybe when we implement it, once the barrels actually go to a common space, we create some kind of sign up where as people use it, they can go in and say, I'd have interest to have it at home. Once we hit that threshold, then we can contact them and say, hey, we actually have enough interested. We've been doing the general spot. Let's make the move and figure out how we can do the grants for the starter kits that they talked about.
Because was the number 75 is what they needed in town?
Yeah, so that would be, they would need at least 75 residents in town to sign up for the curbside pickup, which wouldn't be on the town wouldn't pay for that. That'd be a self-pay situation for those 75 people, but they need a minimum of 75 people to start in a town.
I mean, there's bonuses, a couple things, right? It's good for the environment, and it would also reduce tonnage.
It would impact our next round of.
Right, so I mean, it would reduce the tonnage that would, it would get picked up, and obviously that would reduce the cost.
I like the remote service. Why don't we get one of the scouts involved with a badge to get plaque it up, and so that we could start collecting names and have a sign off location for it and give them something for an Eagle Scout project. That kills two birds with one stone.
The one thing we'd have to figure out where would be a good spot.
Well, I would imagine closer to my place over at the
where the cardboard dumpsters are.
You got to keep it away from residential. I hate to say it, but we've got bears, we've got coons, we've got everything around here.
Do we know how large the containers are? Or are they going to be the size?
They're about the size of the, I think they're either 65 or 92 gallon, like the size that we put out curbside now.
Okay.
So it'd be 2 to 3 barrels in a centralized location where people can drive up, similar to what they do for like cardboard dumpsters. I guess my suggestion might be we determine, do we want to start with purchasing X number of starter kits? Do we want to go rate for that 75 threshold? Starter kits are like $39.99. That will gain interest. We can give them out on a first come first served basis. But I think we would need to ask the town manager to reach out to the composting company and get some final numbers. Also, we would need to determine a location that best suits the town administration piece of that. So I'm not sure where that location might be, whether it's a highway garage or.
For me, I think we should start initially with just have a centralized location.
Right.
And then look into, just getting the starter kits.
Yeah.
Just to make sure you have interest. If all of a sudden it's filling up quick, then I think that's a good sign.
Right, will they be able to judge that through their remote service?
So what they would pick up on a weekly basis. So if people are going and properly composting and filling those barrels up, they could turn around after a week and say, you need more barrels. But I guess it would be, if we decide to move forward with this, it'd be just going out and getting the numbers that we need as far as setting up the service where they come out and empty the barrel, because I think it was somewhere around just under $2,000 a year to service 2 or 3 barrels at a drop-off location for that company. And then each starter kit, depending on how many we bought, is about $39. And that's a barrel about this big with all the compostable bags that would come with it that people can use. So
yeah, and I think once it gets going, you'll see residential homes want to do it. I mean, I'm old enough to remember having the thing in the backyard where you'd have it for the pig farmers. You'd put all your scraps there, and they'd come and pick it up, and that used to be pleasant in the summertime.
They were.
So I guess I'll make a motion to have the town manager reach out to Black Earth and get some estimates, and we can prove at a upcoming meeting.
And I'll second that.
And are we thinking 2 barrels to start, 3 barrels?
I guess we could find out what the actual,
Yeah, what do they suggest? What do they
they're
suggest to the town
suggesting.
of
I
this
think-
size, or what do they
I think they
think?
were suggesting 2 barrels to start, so.
Just to see how it goes?
Yeah, put a sticker on the barrels that says if interested in a home pickup, sign up
Please
here.
reach out, yeah.
They could provide us, the flyers, stuff like that for the advertising and,
So
putting
would-
the word out for the
Could
town.
we do like a little TV thing to
Absolutely.
share what
Yeah, we
is
talked about,
allowed to go in?
yeah, I think we have to get together with Dean. And I think it would be a good thing too. It's a good thing to get out there, let everyone know
Right.
this service is now available.
Yeah.
And the benefits. Everyone says they want to lower the cost. This is one way to do it.
If we can get a lot of people composting, that would significantly reduce the tonnage, because some of the numbers they were talking about was 30%, upwards of 40% of the trash you put out can be composted. So I think it would be a benefit for the town.
Yep, I agree. All right.
Did I make a motion?
You did and was second.
And I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
500. Next up, we have from the police department, the proposed fee schedule. I guess this came up, Greg. It seems like we're a little less than area town.
Yes. The police chief and the administrative assistant over there, we had met on, Beth and I had with a right to know workshop and the like. And as part of that, came up and was discussed as far as the fees that our police department charges, mostly for accident reports, incident arrest reports, for fingerprints, permits, and the like, are not severely, but are under what area communities are charging. And in that proposed fees, there's also current fees charged by others. So what they were running into quite a bit was a lot of requests would be made at our police department for certain records, and they would go through the process of doing it. They would prepare them, have them ready to go, and then they would never be picked up. So this changes from when, payment is made from if it's picked up to at the time of request. It's like with the regards to accident reports, which is extremely common in many towns, it is a flat fee per accident report, not per page, and most of those are usually paid for by insurance companies and the like. So with regards to fingerprints, with the live scan, we do have that capability. The cards to use in the live scan, are $10. And because we are so underpriced for area communities, that everybody comes here from miles around to do it. So we have to take an officer either off the road or take their time to be able to, bring them in and do it. So this is really, it's changing the fees to better reflect what is the current climate, if you will, around area towns and processes.
Yeah, when you look at the prices, it's probably right about kind of in the middle.
And that's what I said, the proposed they're not the highest, they're not the cheapest, they're,
Middle.
competitive, if you want to say, for lack of a better term.
I make a motion. We increase to the proposed numbers for the Glasgow Police Department 2025.
I'll second that.
Second by Tyler. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 500. Next up is our favorite time of the year, our board assignments.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
I don't know, hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at it. I know it's something new for you, Tyler, so hopefully you had a chance to figure out what fits in with the schedule and.
Yep.
And all of that. Obviously, if you're sitting on one right now and you'd like to stay, make sure, you speak up. So the first one we have up is Budget Committee. Currently, we have Jay and Liz on there. That meets Tuesdays at 6:30 as scheduled. Generally, I think that usually starts like September, but you might have one or two coming up, something
I
like that.
think there's
before the summer.
one coming up for reorg.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd like to stay as the rep if unless someone else wants it.
No.
I'll be the alternate.
Okay.
I was just sitting there, so.
I'm already busy with another budget
All
committee.
right. We'll give that to Tyler. One thing I'll tell you, Tyler, from past experience, don't hop on every one of them.
We highlighted.
Because then you're out every night. Next is the CIP. We need 2 reps and an alternate. Currently, it's Jay and myself, and Liz is the alternate.
I would like to stay on it in some capacity.
Yeah, and I would as well, and Jay, probably you as well.
Yeah, I'll stay.
How do we want to?
Doesn't matter to me.
I'm the same way. As long as we have it covered, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I'll stay as a rep.
And what would you rather do, Liz? Just tell me, and I'll do the other.
I don't mind stepping up if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, I'll go down. That's fine. And then next up is Conservation. We need a rep and an alternate. They meet the first Thursday at 7 o'clock or as needed.
Yes.
So who do we have interested in that one?
I'd like to step away from that.
I want to be on Concom.
That works.
Jay, did you want to be the alternate?
I could do the alternate.
Okay. Which makes sense. You gotta remember, if you're on Conservation Committee, you can't be on planning. And so next is Highway Safety. That meets as needed. I want to say last year they might have met twice. Does that sound about right?
That's about right. I'm on or off, or sitting as an alternate, doesn't matter to me.
I mean, that's one I can definitely fit in the schedule.
You have?
Yeah.
All right. So how about Tyler? So would you prefer?
Why don't you go alternate?
Okay. Works.
Next is Energy. They meet the first Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
I would love to stay on that.
I would too. We can switch roles if you want to be the rep. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And next up is Planning, which meets the first and third Wednesdays at 6:30. I mean, I'm currently on there. Jay's the alternate.
I'll step away for the
And I'm
alternate.
happy to step in.
All right, so I'll stay as the rep.
Absolutely.
We'll make Liz the alternate. So that works out. And next up, we have Recreation, which is currently John and myself. They meet the second Wednesday at 6:30 at the Town Hall Annex.
I'm stepping away from rec.
Yeah, I'll take that one as the rep.
All right. And if no one minds, I'll stay on as the alternate.
Perfect.
Can't
That
hurt.
was no,
Can't hurt to have
that
two.
was no reflection on my want with rec. It's just that you're better suited at that.
Yeah, because you're currently you were
The chair.
the chair.
Right, so we have 2 former chairs there, so that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I was on rec, I think, for like 20 years. It was quite a while.
Do a couple things with rec here and there.
Yeah. Next up is Elder Affairs. Currently, that's Liz and Jay.
I need to step away due to my work
Okay, and
schedule.
And they meet what, the third Thursday at 1 though, but it's not at
Oh,
the
wait,
annex.
they have
Oh,
been meeting
Tuesdays.
the third Tuesday of the month, but it has been changed to 10 a.m. due to some concerns with coverage for family members.
Okay, and
Well, Jay, are you staying because of the VIC and everything that goes along with that, Jay?
I could stay on there, yes.
I can be free for 10 o'clock on Tuesdays if.
Yeah, that's 10 on
And
Tuesday is
elderly
not
probably
ideal
fits me
for.
closer than you.
all right, so
Well, Jay, you want to head it?
Yeah.
So that's Jay and John?
John. And then next.
No H.
Jay.
And then next up is the quarterly, it's only the only quarterly, it's the Regional Economic Development Center. Who's that? That was Tim and Jay.
But Tim's stepping away from that.
Is Tim stepping away from that one too?
Yeah, there was a note about that.
It's in your folder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suppose I should read the folder, huh? So, I mean, Jay, did they meet pretty regular quarterly?
Yeah, they do. I just haven't attended one. I think my term actually expired. Or is it, no, I have this year, so it's not expired yet.
Oh, is that one, do they meet at night or during the day or?
That's one they meet at night.
Do you know what night? Oh, you never know
It-
probably what day,
they-
right? It varies.
It changes location. I think the last one was in Kingston.
All right, anybody
It's
interested in that
usually in the
one?
evening.
Quarterly, I mean, Jay, do you want to be the rep and I'll be the alternate? Or
I could,
vice versa is fine with me. It's a
Yeah.
quarterly one, it's not. I can make that work.
I'll stay on as,
So you want to be the rep then, Jay?
yeah, I'll be the rep. And then Tyler can be we can go to that meeting.
And then next up is the town report. We need 2 reps and an alternate. It's really only a couple meetings, and then you got to proofread at the end. I'm fine staying on that one.
I'm fine being an alternate if you want a second rep.
Oh, I can be the second rep.
Perfect. And then, let's see, next up, we got Old Home Day. Those meetings have kind of been sporadic. It's when everybody can kind of get together. I know I'm fine staying on Old Home Day.
I'm fine staying on Old Home Day. I've been doing it for years.
If that's okay with everyone?
So who's the rep and who's the alternate?
We'll keep it the same. John will be the rep, I'll be the alternate. I don't think it makes much difference. We usually
No,
both the
we're
meetings
both at the
anyways.
meetings.
And then we have the Historical Society. That's the third Tuesday at 6:30. And they meet at the museum. I know, John, you're involved in that.
Yeah, I'm staying on historical. I'll take rep. Doesn't matter. I'm going to be at those meetings anyways.
Yep.
I
And
wouldn't mind stepping on that.
Good.
you want to be on that too?
There we go. Liz alternate.
And then the last one we have is Hazmat, which is currently John, and the alternate was Tammy, but
I'll take
That's like-
that from John. John just did a bunch there. I can take that as the rep.
okay. Unless you want to stay on, I can put myself as an alternate.
Doesn't matter to me.
Because the fire chief's always there as well,
Yeah.
too.
You get a chance to talk with the chief for a while and meet all the other chiefs in the neighborhood.
Yep. The only other thing I guess we got to look at is the RPC commissioner. It looks like the 3-year term for Darrell, obviously that expired in '25. And Jay, you were the alternate commissioner.
But who was the alternate for hazmat? We have Tyler as rep.
No, myself.
Thank you.
So does anybody want to be the commissioner or the alternate?
Can you share what that is? Just a quick overview.
I've never been to any of those meetings. Jay, did you attend any of those?
It's
Oh, is it
Planning
Rockingham?
Commission.
It's, yes, the planning commission.
I'll do
Yeah,
it.
they talk about a lot of the road projects that are coming up, traffic calming, stuff like that.
I guess it would,
I'll play in that format if need be.
yeah, and whatever works.
Okay, yeah, who wants to be the commissioner, who wants to be the alternate?
Alternate.
All right, I'll step up.
Okay.
Well played, sir.
You gotta be quick around here.
I know.
All right, and always if there's ever, something comes up and there's issues, we can always revisit and move things around if we have to.
And on the next page, Sue Sherman would like to serve on the school district CIP.
Oh, okay. In the share.
So if that's all right with everyone, we'll go with it.
Do we have to vote on it, or just a consensus good enough?
Consensus works.
And I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yes.
'Cause I'm-
Yeah.
Someone's volunteering to do it.
Is Daryl staying on as an alternate?
Don't know.
Daryl
Well-
offered to be an alternate last year, but we could
We can put somebody else.
appoint another alternate in case she can't make it.
I'm the alternate for the school board,
Yeah,
so I'll always be there.
Yeah.
So
Take alternate.
I can do the alternate, and then if need be, ask someone to.
Yeah, if you need someone else to, one of us can always show up.
Because I'm
to help
already
out.
going to be there, so.
Yeah, but one of us can always show up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like we haven't done that in the past to make sure we have coverage.
My husband would be so happy I won't be home so much more this year.
Well, keeps for a happy marriage.
That's right, it does. Trust me.
All right, yeah, and there's a thing from Tim stepping down. And let's see, we have some non-public minutes to approve.
I'll just take one and pass it down.
Thank you, sir. Tyler.
Once you're ready, if someone wants to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the March 24th, 2025 non-public meeting minutes and to keep them sealed.
A second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
To approve the consent agenda. But we have accounts payable manifest week of April 3rd, 2026, BOS draft minutes of March 24th, 2025, 4 veterans tax credit applications, 1 warrant for land use change tax, 2 reappointments to the Conservation Commission, Olaf Westphalen, Charles Blinn. I don't think this is right, is it? Because we didn't have anything for appointments tonight.
Well, you can have them now. I wanted
Oh, you've got
to
'em?
see what you wanted to do.
Okay. So what we have then, we have 2 appointments, the zoning board of adjustment and 1 alternate member. The candidates are Ryan LeBrecq, Jason Orsini, and Darrell Britton. And 2024 revised abatement request.
And you start signing them, send it
Yeah.
that way. I'll sign it on the way back with your pen, because
And
I'm penless.
the manifest, when should we see that? Probably Wednesday?
Wednesday.
right. Somebody wants to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 500. And Beth, thank you for putting the action items. I mean, we started this, I guess about this time last year, right?
Yeah.
I know we knocked off, and there's still, looks like 5 items we still have on here. And then this is something we can add to, like, as the year goes on, if there's items that we need to get done. So we have at the forefront. I know right now we have the transportation program, and I know, Jay, you had that one that you were, that's in process, and I know that's still ongoing. You still have things going on with that, right?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that in my town manager's report.
All right, we'll hold off on that then. Encouraging, number 2 was encouraging volunteerism. It's on the website. Jay and Liz had that. That was in process. I know that's always something that's ongoing.
Yeah, I know
Always.
we talked about having like some open house at the library. I don't know if we still want to move ahead with that, but we did put a whole page up on the Plastow webpage about volunteering opportunities. So it just kind of outlined all of the different committees that people can volunteer for or other organizations they can get involved with. So
Do we want to keep that on the action items? Something, because we're constantly doing it.
Right.
It's like never stops.
Yeah, we can just, I don't know, take it off, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
Number 3 was the non-public minute review to unseal previous minutes. I don't know if we have anything there.
Well, you do, you have to do it a minimum every 10 years. We have plenty of time, but
Okay. Well, I guess if you haven't, start taking a look at some of them, right, so you,
we could do that.
Should we start taking some like every meeting?
you know, if we see anything that's there, if somebody wants to, I mean, some of them obviously got to stay sealed. We know that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess as we go through, I mean, usually we do a pretty good job at that. So, I mean, we'll keep that on there and we'll take a look at that. Next one was you were responsible for junior selectmen, like a high school senior.
That was
They
a
wanted to, like,
Tammy
shadow.
thing.
That was a
and-
Tammy thing?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it ever gained any traction. There really
No.
was no interest in
No.
that. All right, so we'll probably take that one off. And then the last one, I think you're already doing it, Greg, right? The quarterly review, like the ambulance calls, the budget, water department, that's all stuff's already being put on the page now, right?
For the most part, yes. I'm a little behind, but I need to get caught up.
All right,
Can we add the intercept to that as well?
Mhm.
it should be.
Yep.
I have a question. Voting machines, we really need to do that. Is that something we should put on here or just bring to one of our next meetings?
We can put the voting machines on there. I've already had conversations with Martha and Bob on it,
Mhm.
and I think we've settled on
The one.
the one machine.
Yeah.
So now it's just a matter of, I know Martha was gonna look into it because there's grant money out there.
Yeah, so I just happened to run into Mr. Hard this weekend and Representative Hard, and he said that there is, I guess he said we would still qualify for 50%.
Yeah, you have until, I think, it might be next year.
Yeah.
But I think we need, and I've talked to Martha, I said, let's get the pricing, let's get this
Yeah,
done
let's-
sooner rather than later. I
Yeah,
mean, I know we don't have any more elections this year.
Right, but I think we have to wait. There's gonna be a,
Right, so that's why you
Yeah.
want to get it in. So, I mean, I can take that as that one. I'll follow up with Martha to make sure that gets done.
But we budgeted for 3 machines,
Yes.
so
okay.
I guess we should get in the queue.
Yes,
Get those.
absolutely. Especially when it's settled now, which one we want to get.
Yeah.
And it is a nice machine.
So we got that to the action items, that voting machines. Okay. Was there anything else anyone thought of? I mean, we can always add as we go as well.
That was on my head.
Well, now it's off.
Well, it's still on.
All right. So we'll look at that like, once a month, the action items and add, take off. Town managers report. What do we got, Greg?
A whole lot of nothing, no. Last couple of weeks, been busy with meetings with residents, department heads. It's been quarter end and also wrapping up audit. With April 1 here, the 2 union contracts, the majority of the changes to salaries and the like, come about around April 1. So there's been employee status change forms and the like. RFPs, we did have 2 RFPs that have come due since then. One being the roof project on the library. So I met with the library director, and Jim DeBonis from maintenance today, going over RFPs. They had, I believe, 14 or 15 different companies bid on the roof project. So in the process of narrowing it down, checking references and the like. And then the other one I had mentioned earlier, the bids were due for the Wilder Drive project on Monday the 31st. So there were 7 to 10 people that requested plans. We got 3 proposals, ranging from 1.1 million to 1.7 million. So those are in the hands of the engineer running through the process that they need to, from a construction standpoint. So transportation, did you say during manager's report or during the selectmen's report?
During the selectmen's report.
Okay,
I would
I
talk
misunderstood. I'll let you. All right, I'm good.
All right, thanks, Greg. All right. Now, selectmen's reports. We'll start with you, Jay.
All right, great. A couple years ago, we started to talk about transportation for seniors in town. I know we do in our budget, we do budget money for senior transportation and stuff, but there was an effort underway with coordinating with the Lions Club and about potentially purchasing a vehicle for the town that has since evolved into working with Greater Salem caregivers. So I was invited to a couple meetings. We had one about 2 weeks ago where we discussed Greater Salem Caregivers provides rides for area seniors to appointments, to the store, to hospital, doctor's visits, stuff like that. They do drive to Boston or Exeter or Portsmouth, but what they do is when they start up in a new town, they do a lot of recruitment, and they look for people in town to be drivers within the program so that they're local to the town and they're not asking someone from Pelham to drive to Plastow, then to drive someone to Manchester. So originally they had provided a proposal to about a year ago, but it was tabled. The conversations had started up again. And I wanted to just let the board know that I was part of these conversations. And I think we have a meeting on the 10th. And I think Greater Salem Caregivers is going to provide some type of estimate on what it would be to do the startup. And the startup is recruitment in the town of Plastow. They would come out, they would do all the recruitment, they would advertise, and I believe the Lions Club would also be supporting them with pushing the advertising and recruitment and helping with that. So, before we get any further, I asked them to provide some type of estimate on what the cost would be. Now, it might be I think the original proposal was around $3,500, and that encompassed a 6-month period of recruitment and advertising and having information nights to get people involved. And I'm not speaking for any particular group or the town, but maybe there's a shared cost there between, the groups. Maybe there's an opportunity there to help with the recruitment and try to get a program running where seniors in town can get a ride if they need it. So I think I'll have more information after the 10th, but I might actually have some type of hard proposal from them as well. So and that would be from Greater Salem Caregivers. And I know they're interested in trying to start a program here in town as well. So I just wanted to bring it to the board and see what, if you guys had any questions or concerns or anything I can ask when I go to that meeting.
No, I know. I think would definitely be a good benefit to the town, right? To help, especially some of the seniors when try to get to appointments and.
Right. Yep. Okay. So I'll give more of an update after that. There is a budget meeting coming up. I'm not sure the date yet. I don't think that's been set in stone.
22.
Oh, the 22nd? Okay. 22nd. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jay. Liz?
I went to the energy meeting, and you've seen the fruits of our labors, yay. Community power for locking in a rate. Still no update. There'll be another conversation coming up. They're thinking of possibly even if the rate's a couple pennies more, locking in because of the volatility of all the situations going on in the state and the country. Very excited about the solar array project, and then possibility of an energy fair coming down the pike, possibility of outreach within the community and seniors. And I spoke with Jay about maybe having some people come in maybe September to talk about energy savings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Good. You could see the solar panels at the
Solar panels,
Vic Gary
lovely.
Center.
Yeah.
Did the Vic Gary Center put up solar panels?
Yep.
And
Did
that's
they get them on the front and the back or just the back?
Just the back.
all I got.
Thank you. Tyler? You just got your assignments. So
I just got my assignments. I did spend some time at the Historical Society last Friday with a couple of the 5th grade classes. They had a field trip, so I wanted to see how that
nice.
all went. Went great. They all enjoyed it. They learned a bunch. I know we
They
have
still take their pictures there too for the 5th grade?
we did out front. Yeah, we had them all take their pictures, and then they did the walk around the town and Town Green, learned about the Badger House, and walked through the cemetery. We have a rec commission meeting this week, appointing some new members, swearing them in. See how that reorg goes, but just got my appointment, so not too much to share.
All right. Thanks. John?
I was away.
You got a tan.
So I didn't really accomplish too much. I know that between Jay and I, we have the community garden that's going to be popping up pretty soon. So you'll see that out on the Facebook pages and such. But other than that,
How many pots do you have out at the garden now?
I think we can have as many as we want. I'll check with my bride, but she pretty much said whatever the town needs, the town gets.
We usually do like 14 to 20. Depends. Last year was 14. So
Depends how many sign up.
Yeah. So we'll just keep advertising it.
All right. Cool.
Great opportunity, grow your own food. If you live in a condo or a situation like that, don't have your own yard.
Yeah, nothing's better than homegrown tomatoes either. All right. For myself, the only thing I had a planning board meeting last week, and it was a workshop. So just now starting to look at, different changes they might want to make. Hopefully, not as many as last year. Keep the ballot a little bit shorter. But I know that is the goal that they are looking for to do. That was all I have. I guess we have Rec Wednesday, right?
Yep.
And there is an old home day here at Town Hall tomorrow. I think is it 6 o'clock or 6:30?
I think it's 6.
So 6 o'clock. So all you volunteers looking for something to do, it's a perfect opportunity to show up. I know they have some good things planned this year for Old Home Day, but they do need numbers to help make the day be successful. Even, we keep saying, even if it's just an hour that day to help out, run a game, take raffle tickets, something, anything. There'll be a lot more, I'm sure, coming out on about Old Home Day coming up, because this is April already.
Yeah, it's going to come up fast soon.
Certainly does. Do we have non-public tonight, Greg?
Yes, we do.
All right. Does anybody have anything they wanted to add before we sign off?
No, sir.
Good. All right, so we'll go into non-public and we will not be coming back afterwards, correct?
Correct.
I make a motion to go into non-public
What are we going in
under
under?
Legal.
9-1A legal, what is that one?
L.
L.
Second.
Mr. Coy,
Yes.
Mr. DeRoche,
Yes.
Mr. Gifford,
Yes.
Ms. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Thorne.
Yes.
And everyone have a good week. I guess we won't see you till after Easter, so everybody have a happy Easter.
Same to you.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, don't forget, the Saturday before is the egg hunt on the town green.
Yep.
That's on the 19th then,
Yep,
right?
19th.
All right, thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good week.